Hello and welcome to Khyber Shards, a 5th edition actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world. It's Friday, so we have a Khyber Shards Answers episode today, and we are joined by Casey for the first time in a while. I think it's been a bit since I've gotten you on because it's spring and we're teachers, and spring is
Right.
insanity,
Chaos. Yes.
absolute chaos. But anyway. We're here and we have a bunch of questions about and
Awesome.
for Casey and Shade. And so we're just going to jump right into them because I think it'll take us a bit to get through them all. And so our first one comes from Emily. She is asking again because it got skipped last time. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
If Khyber Shards had a live action or animated adaptation, who would you want Shade to be voice acted by? Asking for a voice actor instead of a regular actor like I did the previous two, because Shade would probably need to be a combo of CGI and practical effects as a Kitsune, and thus we wouldn't be able to see her actress probably most of the adaptation. So yeah, whose voice would you want to give to Shade in an adaptation?
This is going to maybe sound a little bit vain. I had a hard time coming up with an answer to this question because I just hear my voice. And so trying to pick someone else that I think would bring her to life in the way that I would want to, I studied for this question. RA and I were traveling, and so this was one of our discussions on the way back from our trip. He knows more voice actors than I do, and I had to think through it. I think I would want Ashley Birch to voice Shade. I think if it was a combination of CGI and practical effects, she has the like petite frame that Shade that I picture Shade having. There we go. And just because I like that that sort of juxtaposition of the smallness of her and the fierceness of her. And then Ashley Birch, I think, could do a really good job with the sort of innocence that we see with Shade, where, although she is very experienced in like violent things, she's still really naive. And I think Ashley Birch could handle the naive aspect and also the growly fierceness when those moments came up too. So I think that's who I settled on.
So we have, it has been commented on several times, similarities between Shade and my character on the podcast, Eris. I swear we didn't plan this. I was asked this question quite a long time ago about Eris and gave the same answer for the actress I would pick to play Eris in a live action adaptation.
Did you really?
For most of the same reasons, yes.
Okay, that's hilarious. No, I had no idea. That was not just a cheat from you.
Yeah. That's right. No, that's a really good answer. I like Ashley Birch for the voice of Shade. That fits really, really well. I like that. Also from Emily, how well do you think Nasaria is handling the siege of the school, the weird vibes in Ari's room, the murder bot, and Thora's continued absence? Oh, it's a lot when you just list it all out there, Emily.
It is a lot. Ooh, a lot going on. I think that she isn't handling it well, but I don't think she would put that on display, especially with Thora being away from the school. She sees herself as gotta help these kids, gotta keep them in line, do what she's not going to be a good protector. She's not strong enough yet, but she's definitely going to tell them what to do and how they can prepare the building and who to listen to. And so I think she's not handling it well, and I think she's covering that with lots and lots of bossiness.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right. Some questions
Control is a
from.
great way to handle
Oh
anxiety.
yeah, yes, 100%. Yeah. That's great. I'm. I really want. I need to. I need to do like a bounce back to the school scene just to get reactions from the kids to the sudden appearance on the grounds of a bunch of armed Goliaths, and the fact that there's you know, a half dozen drow lurking around the edges of the school, and all of the armament that suddenly appeared on the school right as the strike force disappeared. We really need to bounce back and get student reactions to that, because I feel like that's just ripe for comedy. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
We have some questions from Mia. Do you think Ari's discomfort with the outside world, and I'm interpreting that as the outdoors, will be a barrier in their potential relationship? Because I think Ari is way more comfortable with the outside world in the other context than Shade is.
Absolutely.
So I'm assuming that means the outdoors. So do you
Which
think that's a barrier in their relationship?
I do. I do. It's the outdoors is such Shade's comfort spot. It's where she goes
Mm-hmm.
to think, it's where she goes for safety, and the fact that it means all of the opposite things for him. For him it is danger and creates fear and insecurities, and for Shade it's just this is what she knows, this is what she's good at. And on one side there, she likes being able to teach him about
Mm-hmm.
it and introduce him into that world and feeling more secure in it. um and it's a great way for them to spend time together, and for there's value in each of them having their own strengths and their separate interests. But because it's such a big part of her happy place, for lack of a better phrasing, I think that it is a detriment to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to get past having just completely opposite comfort zones.
Right.
Yep. Do you think Shade will ever truly feel comfortable allowing Cal to participate in combat encounters again after we almost lost him?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I am sure the viewers have noticed, and I'm sure Philip has noticed. I have so underutilized Cal recently. Um and that has been so intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Shade is terrified for him to go into combat and to get hurt again. And that is no, I don't think she'll ever feel comfortable doing that again. And I think it's it's interesting to play because
Mm-hmm.
we have been playing Cal as his own entity, right? He's not
Right.
just do whatever Shade says. Like he has his own personality and his own motives, and it is a little difficult, not with the negative connotations of that, I guess complicated, to try to navigate when he would jump in outside of her asking him
Mm-hmm.
to.
Yeah.
um, because he's just as protective of her as she is of him. And so trying to play Shade, and then also, okay, well, Cal is going to be doing his own thing at some point. He wouldn't just sit back the whole time.
Yeah. That is tricky to navigate, deciding where the animal companion is its own entity, and where the animal companion is just an extension of the character. That is, yeah. um, and then one more from Mia. Now that RA is able to watch the little one while you record sessions, don't you miss hearing baby noises in the background, or is that just me?
I thought this question was adorable because I still hear baby noises in the background.
they're
as
almost
we're
not baby
recording
noises
this.
anymore.
Oh my goodness, he's such a big boy.
Yeah,
He is
he's
not so baby anymore.
full on toddler now, and has some words.
That's true. That's true. And walking. Every now and then I
Mm-hmm.
can hear him banging on this door. He hears his
Mm-hmm.
mama and he'll come knock on it. RA is watching him as we record, and I could hear him toddle by talking. So I am sorry you're missing those noises, but I still hear them every now and then too. That's a testament to you, Philip, because I know sometimes they're coming through the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we're recording, especially if he's upset at nighttime, you can hear him crying. Or
Mm-hmm.
your precious wife and daughter came to help out and watch him one recording session, and he had such a great time. It was just giggles and giggles coming
Oh
through
yes, yeah, yeah.
that
He was
door.
cackling. It was awesome. He has such a great laugh.
It was really stinking precious. He does have a good laugh, but also he loves your daughter. Oh my goodness.
That's true. um, excellent. We have some questions from Laura next. Laura asks, how is Shade feeling about her and Ari's relationship now that she's had some time to get used to it? And how has him dying affected it other than the constant worry?
Whew. What a complicated question that I'm not sure I can do justice.
Yeah.
I honestly think that the time and the events that have happened in that amount of time have brought up more questions for Shade than clarifications.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for every clarification or answer that she thinks she arrives at, four more concerns developed. I think that his death definitely made it clear to her how much she cares for him and how much
Yeah.
she values him in her life. I think it also made it obvious that she doesn't know how to process feelings. That's a a big event, and she could only navigate it through with anger.
Mm.
And then somebody. Oh, I wish I remembered who. It may have been Laura in a watch party pointed out the trust issues between, not between, but the trust issues that Shade and Ari have, and how that just snowballs very quickly for them, particularly the awkward bedroom scene.
Yeah.
Um, how they were both trying to be sweet to the other
Mm-hmm.
one, and it wasn't received that way. It was
Mm-hmm.
received in a distrustful, why not believe me? And that just, it's such a small moment, but it also makes me so sad for them that they want to care for each other and they want to do the best for each other, but they can't. They don't necessarily speak the same emotional language. I don't
Yeah.
know how to word that, but
No, that's definitely, yeah. 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 It is. I mean, as far as him dying, that's like a couple of days ago at this stage, or not. It's a pretty short amount of time. That
that's so
because
true.
this
It's hard
has
to remember.
events have spiraled substantially, and so it is a very very brief span of time. So yeah, the impact of that is probably still kind of building because there are other things to deal with, in a lot of ways.
But
Um,
definitely like what was noticed is the concern for RE2. Like
yeah.
how do you prevent this from ever happening again?
Mm-hmm.
Um and gosh, it's so hard not to reference
Yeah.
the episode.
Yeah, because we recorded last night. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I think we can say
But
fairly
without
you will notice things in the next couple of episodes that I think are a that I noticed, at least, as a result and interpreted as a result of these events. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here's an interesting one, also from Laura. If Cal hadn't come back, would you have had Shade change subclasses or get a new animal companion? And if so, which subclass / animal companion?
Oh, I definitely somehow missed this question when I was looking over the questions. I'm so sorry. Oh, that's such a good question. I I don't know how Shade would recover from permanently
I,
losing Cal.
I was wondering if the real answer is an entirely new character, like if the death of Cal ends Shade as an adventurer, like is what I
Yeah.
was wondering.
I it would break her in a way that I'm not sure she could continue adventuring with others. It would be ooh. Yeah, I think that it would, which as a player is not really a smart way to build your character in that. Oh, here's this entity that could very well die but completely shatters your character into non-functioning. But I think the way I've played her, and so much of her fear is that abandonment, whether that's through death or her friends leaving, Cal dying because of her, because of course she would blame herself, obviously.
Sure.
I think it would take a long period of isolation before she ever adventured again. And so it probably would be, at least temporarily, a different character until Shade stopped doing her Ronin thing. Like,
Yeah. I can totally imagine Shade going into the Feywild and like living in River's domain for a while or something like that, and
yes.
becoming one of River's Fey for a while.
Did I get that right? Is Hawkeye is Ronin for that time period?
Yeah.
What is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is sort of what I picture happening.
So here's a question that I think the others got asked at some point, but I don't think I remember you getting asked. If that happened and you were to just grab one of the NPCs to play until you were ready to bring Shade back, who would you pick?
Oh. I've made it through 3 already that like I think Harish would be fun to play. But probably so close to Shade. I don't know that you would let me play him, but I think Dragonhawk would be so much fun.
Yeah.
Just everything Shade isn't, the flamboyance and the finesse. I think that would be a blast to play.
Yeah.
And then maybe for the I think it would just be so much fun to play Demise.
I would really enjoy watching you play Demise.
Particularly the banter that I would get to have between Ari and Pog, just reluctantly having me around the whole time. Oh my goodness. I think I would have an absolute blast trolling them with that.
To bring out your edgelord goth kid vibes.
Yes.
Oh man, yes, that would be I would enjoy seeing that. That would be funny.
I could totally do it. I'm a theater tech kid, man.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's great. Another from Laura. If Shade lived in our world, what would her favorite holiday be?
Ooh. Okay. To be honest, the first thought that came to mind, and I don't know that this is my final answer, but my first thought was Thanksgiving because she would totally get to go hunting to just put
Yeah.
like a huge plate of, a feast together.
Mm-hmm.
But mostly because it would be socially acceptable hunting time. Other than that, so many of the holidays have so many festivities and like forced togetherness.
My snarky answer was Arbor Day because you could just go out and plant a tree
Plant trees.
by yourself.
Yes.
Don't have to do it as a group.
I had made it to St. Patrick's just because of the color green.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think most of although and this would be very hard to separate from me versus Shade, but Halloween, the idea of everybody
Oh, yeah.
pretending to be somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
the darkness of it and the stealthiness would be appreciated. She's got her cool
Mm-hmm.
mask from Donnabella. Like, I think she would really enjoy Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah. The anonymity. Yeah, I can see that being appealing. And then I've just noticed that that's the last question that you have to answer, and the last little run of these are all for me about
Awesome.
NPCs and stuff. So you get a break. Okay, actually, you can read them. Haha! Swap, and
Excellent.
you can finish the interview.
I would love to. Philip, what would Tommel teach if he lived at the school? Not in the basement. I guess he technically lives at the school right now, which has been my dream from the beginning. So huzzah.
What Tom will teach? Uh, well, I think Tommel would be inclined to teach like the history of aberrant marks, but it would be an extremely biased and agenda driven
Oh,
perspective
of
on
course.
the history of aberrant marks. And so I think he would focus it on like on history, the story of of our people, the aberrant marked, um, from a very specific perspective. So I think that would be where what Tommel's teaching niche would be.
Oh, man. He's recruiting.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, you gotta get the kids in the right frame of mind to face the world.
Brainwash the young. It's how you,
That's
it's how
right.
you win a
Yeah,
generation.
yeah.
All right. Following that terrifying answer, is Demise bummed that Esri isn't going on the mission with them? Which ship is better, Demesri or Bresri?
Uh, no, she's not. Well, okay. There's a sense in which she is because Ari is worse to her. Demise has spent her entire life, and she's an elf, so it's substantial, becoming a necromancer and working her way up through the servants of the Order of the Emerald Claw and Lady Vol, or I guess Lady Ilmaro is her the identity she would know. Um, she spent all of her life working these way up, and then Esri just sort of like stumbles into this mark and is suddenly the golden child who's being summoned to Farlnen and come, and then Ari like just makes a deal and now he's got all of these powerful necromantic abilities that he doesn't even know how they work, and
Overnight.
she's spent all of these years learning how to do this the right way, and so it's insufferable to her that these two are suddenly so important to the people whose approval she very badly wants and has worked so long to get to. So in the one hand, Esri at least makes sense to her because he has the mark of death, and so there she gets that to a degree. Ari is and Esri and her have closer personalities, and so just Ari's the worst for Demise. As to which ship makes the most sense, I mean, Demise and Esri makes more sense simply because Demise is a character with personality and layers with whom one could have personality, and Bryn has exactly one personality trait, and that is owns a map store and doesn't want to go on a date with Esri. Like, those are the two things we know about Bryn: is he owns a map store and he doesn't want to go on a date with Esri. So that makes Demise by default. Demise wins by forfeit. And at least they
Poor
have things to
Esri.
talk about. Like they're both interested in like the process of death. So there are things they could talk about. I really don't imagine that. I don't get the impression of Esri as fascinated by geography and cartography. So I don't know what Esri and Bryn would talk about were they to go on a date. Also, at
That
some
makes
point, it would
sense.
come out that Esri only asked Bryn on a date so that his friend could rob Bryn's store.
That
And
would be
that
a hard one to get
seems
over.
like that would be a hard revelation to move past in a dating
Right.
relationship.
Starting a relationship on lies is
Yep.
shaky foundation.
Not great.
But then again, um, we did throw Demise from a train, so that might also be a difficult start to the relationship. I see both
That could.
Demise and Esri sitting around a table, not talking.
But eventually they could start talking about how much other people annoy them.
Ooh. Yeah, that's true.
Like they could
True.
bond over misanthropy.
I see it. Surely she would respect him for trying to kill her.
Yeah.
That's not a total negative. Philip, when did you decide that Demise would survive the train?
The minute you
Please
guys
do
pushed her off the
tell.
train. Like the instant you guys pushed her off the train, I was like, no, I'm not killing this character. This is an interesting character. I'm going to use this character. She's meant to be a recurring, not exactly nemesis, but, you know, character who you guys have to interact with in spite of kind of knowing that she would prefer it if you were all zombies. I immediately decided that Demise would survive the fall, because she is. So I didn't create Demise. Demise is a Keith Baker creation from the original
Right.
Eberron book, because one of the things that was meant to be sort of baked into Eberron is for you to have comic book style recurring villains who were also out adventuring and leveling up and doing their own things. And so the original Eberron book presented two potential recurring villains, both attached to the Emerald Claw. One was Demise and the other was Hallis Martin. And both of them were presented at three different challenge levels, so that you could easily have them recur. And I just thought that was such a wonderful concept,
That is really cool.
in design. And so I have used both of them, although Hallis Martin didn't last long as a recurring, didn't get revealed as a villain until it was too late for him to recur, because you guys killed him real hard. But
We do that.
Demise has been Demise has been a fun twist because I didn't expect you guys to say yes to taking her along with you the first time. So what I thought was going to happen is you guys were going to say no, and then there was going to be a fight at that bar on Three Barrel Cove with Demise and some Emerald Claw goons, just to provide a little spice to that, to a long stint of episodes without combat. And then you guys said yes, and so that entirely transformed the dynamic with her as a character, and that has been delightful to use her in that way recurring. And so as soon as Eric decided to go get help from Miravella, I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm not sending the White Raven along. The White Raven would just try to kill Pog. I'm absolutely sending Demise because that's going to be great. And also they've about half convinced themselves that she's definitely totally dead. And so then it was just a matter of deciding, okay, what happened to Demise in the interim? And undead grafting is a thing among the Irani because they revere the undead to a certain degree, and so they will actually use undead prosthetics and graft undead flesh onto their own.
That is wild.
It's super creepy, and so obviously, yeah, she fell and the train ran over her arm or something like that, or damaged her arm. I guess it doesn't have wheels, so it can't run over her arm. But and so her arm is replaced with a skeletal prosthetic, which seemed delightful and not entirely disappointing to someone of her outlook on the world. So yes,
right.
So I just I leveled her up a little bit, gave her a skeletal prosthetic and went with it. So yes. So no, I never intended for her to die. I wanted to use her again, and you guys gave me an excellent opportunity when Ari decided to go ask Miravella for some help.
Did you have a plan for how you were going to reintegrate her?
I didn't really. I was kind of looking for an opportunity. When RA stepped back from the campaign, that kind of put a wrench in the Emerald Claw side of the story, because that was obviously my main connection to the Emerald Claw and that side of things. But then when you guys just absolutely threw the Forgotten Prince under the bus by letting the White Raven know where everything was, that gave me a great way to bring them back in. And so I've been looking for kind of an opportunity for her to recur. But it was tricky because now the Emerald Claw are not exactly adversaries. So this was a wonderful opportunity to have her recur as a cohort rather than as an enemy combatant.
Shade hates it. Casey loves it. It is. I love the dynamic of having her along. I think it is so fun and adds an interesting level of complication. Like, do you really trust her? Oh no, we have to watch, both sides. Yeah, I think having her come back was fantastic.
Yeah, she is fun to play. This moody emo goth elf is very fun to role play her. So it's nice to have her back in.
That is awesome. Emily says, on a similar note, I know that Dane. Oh, not a similar note to the previous question. So okay. I know that Dane doesn't want to be a teacher, but he did somehow get roped into teaching. What do you think he'd prefer to teach?
I thought about this a lot because my initial answer was kind of similar to the Tommel question. But I thought about that. I don't know. I think if Dane taught an academic class, and I'm not sure he would, but I think if Dane taught an academic class, it would probably be more in an area of philosophy, because I think Dane has done a lot more. Tommel's angry and he has enough ideas to drive his agenda. Dane is substantially older than Tommel, and has had a lot more time to sort of formulate his idea of why his cause is just. And so I could see Dane as a kind of cool, slightly edgy philosophy teacher. But I think on a more practical side, I think what Dane would be most likely to agree to teach, the thing I think it would allow Dane to be most likely to be roped in to teach, would be teaching self-defense, martial arts, self-defense combat. Because, Pog's doing physical fitness, Shade's doing a lot of survival things, but Dane would be looking at things as the school needs a danger room. Like the school needs
Right.
needs needs someone to start teaching these kids to use their powers to defend themselves if it comes to that, or learn to defend themselves even if their powers are not conducive to that. And so I think that's what Dane would want to bring to the school, would be the kind of group combat training that the Strike Force received unwillingly, but with obviously better intent behind it
Got
than
it.
what the Strike Force received. Yeah.
Not a logic class in which you would
Probably
just sit
not.
and argue and
Just
twist
rhetoric.
their
Yeah.
words the whole time.
I really enjoyed that conversation. That was a really good conversation. I liked that a lot. I like playing Dane.
Dane navigated it beautifully.
Dane is absolutely the character, one of the characters I would play as a PC is Dane. I think he's a lot of fun and very interesting. So
He is.
Yeah.
I would be so intimidated by and I think it's one of the things that you do so very well is he has to be on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's very observant and intellectually quick, and he doesn't easily let anybody get, you know, physical control or like intellectual control in a conversation or a fight or anything like that. And I think that's impressive, but would require a lot of very active engagement the entire time to be on like that. But
Mm-hmm.
he's a very cool character.
I think he's also my most consistent voice in this campaign of the NPCs. I think he's the voice I maintain most consistently throughout, and that also is appealing. A voice that I can stay in all the time is an important part of picking a
Right.
PC to me. So, well, that is our last question. So thank you all. These are great questions today.
Y'all.
If you'd like to ask questions for the next Khyber Shards Answers, you can do so over on our Discord. You'll find that link along with all of our other social media and the places where you can find us in the description down below. New episodes of Khyber Shards come out on Mondays, and we'll have a new Khyber Shards answer for you next Friday. But until then, thanks for rolling with us.